everyone, this is Taryn with Wonderfully Made Handcrafting, and today I'm working through day 3 of By the Well for God's Tetelestai Kit. On day 3, we're talking about how Jesus was a friend of sinners, and the first words that he uttered on the cross were, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do," in Luke 23:34. Judy writes, as fully man, he understood human frailty and in compassion pled for forgiveness for these lost souls. And then Judy asks us if we are as committed to forgiveness as Jesus was. She also includes a quote from MacArthur in this devotional that I tried to put as much as I could on this little vellum piece with this curio frame. So that quote is, "To forgive someone is to turn the key, open the cell, and let the prisoner out. To write across a debt, nothing owed, paid in full. To pound the gavel in the court and declare not guilty. To shoot an arrow so far it can never be found. To lose the anchor and set the ship free to sail." Also in the Bible, to forgive is to take a pot and smash it into 1,000 pieces so it can never be put back together again. So like I said, I added that quote to some vellum, and then I'm adding it to this Tim Holtz curio frame, which matches perfectly with this month's kit. Now, this curio frame is made out of chipboard and is really easy to peel back layers. And so I peeled back the first layer and added that vellum, and then I stuck the background paper all the way in the back so that there's some space between, so it makes, a nice vellum kind of look, a soft look in the background. Now, as you can see here, I'm trying to create different layers for this cluster, and so I ended up using a lot of the pages from the paper pack, and then I also stamped out these mini tickets. These are a Tim Holtz stamp that a friend gave me, so I'm not sure exactly where they are from, but they're really cute. I ended up saving it for a different project though. So now I want to make sure I have some texture in the background. And so I take this texture fade, which is called Damask. This is one of the newer ones from Tim Holtz. And then I also take his colored craft paper, and I start off with this pinky tan color. And I really like the look of the texture, but I'm not sold on the colors with the coloring of this kit. And so I try the craft side, still am not sold on it. So I decided to put that away and use it for something else. And I'm looking at all the different browns that are included in this neutral paper set. So I embossed that new piece of brown paper, and now I'm just looking at how I want this all laid out. I'm having a little bit of difficulties, and I ended up cutting out a lot of the footage of this just because it took me a while to figure it out. But now I think I've got what I want down, and now I am taking this sandpaper and sanding off that top layer. I really like how this looks and kind of wish that I had kept a little bit more of the sanded look. But there's always something new, and so I wanted to use that Foundry Wax, and so I'm adding that to a bunch of the high points of this card and also the edges. Now, I don't want this to hit every high point because I don't want it to be completely gold. And so I'm just, sparsely kind of going around the paper and adding some of that gold foiling. And here we go, heating it up. This is what actually seals in that Foundry Wax and really makes it vibrantly metallic. I really like how the unevenness of this metallic makes it look old and antiqued, but now I want to add some depth, and so I take out my distress crayons and rub a little bit on my finger and just start kind of rubbing that into the creases and crevices of this embossed paper. So a lot of the times I want my clusters to look like they were just kind of dropped down on the page, like all the papers just fell where they fell. But this page just screamed for some right angles and some straight lines. And so that is what I'm trying to, put together here as straight as possible. But I decide to add this date to the label, and here is where I make a pretty big mistake in how I fix it all. So I add the date, it stamps straight. I'm super proud of that. And then I go to cut it because I'm like, I'm going to save some of it because I love this label the most, the one with just the light dot grid, and I cut off the top that I need. I guess my brain just wasn't working at the time, and so I end up sticking that down on some paper and cutting it out, but I still don't like how you can see that line. And so I need to distract your eye from that line. So first thing I do is add some distressing to the outer edges. Make sure not to get too much in that crevice line because it'll just make it more apparent then. And then I take out this eyelet. Now I'm not crazy about how yellow gold this little eyelet is, and so you'll see me here put it in, and then I'm going to take that gold Foundry Wax again and put that on top of the eyelet. Now once I heat set this will be the same color gold that is all over this page, and so I actually really like it. And I also added a little bit of wetness to the edges and kind of scuffed up the paper, and that really pulls it together and hides that line as well. So this paper is actually from the paper pack. It is the one that is that green Bible pages. And so I just took one of the pages, or I cut out what I thought would be one of the pages. And I love this layering piece and this paper. I think it'll probably be on a lot of my Bible journaling pages this month. So now I'm working on gluing this whole cluster together off the page so I get better placement and I can move things around a little bit easier if I don't get that perfect placement at the first time. And I'm just making sure that everything is just dressed the way I want it, and just making sure that everything lines up. And now we need to start working on that background. So for this background, I don't want it to be too dark because I don't want it to take away from my cluster at all, but I do like the coloring of frayed burlap. And so I take my makeup brush that's really fluffy, and I'm just going to spread some of that frayed burlap in the background. And then I decide that it's still too dark. And so I spray a bunch of water on the page, and I'm just picking it up with some napkins and then drying it off. And this honestly gives me the exact color that I want. I really wanted to use this Tetelestai stamp from the Kit stamp, not only to remember what kit this was from, but more importantly, to remind myself that when God forgives us, it is finished, it is done. And so I stamped that right above my cluster, and then I took out this lovely lace stencil. This is one of my favorite stencils from By the Wall for God. I'll link it down below if I see that it's in stock. I just love the sweet and simple look of it, and so I'm adding this to a couple different places in my background. Now I left this part in. I did make a mistake because I had this green mat in the background so I could stamp it better, and then when I used the stencil it wasn't at the very bottom, and so I got a huge clump of texture paste down there, but it was super simple to fix. I just scraped it off and then re-added some, and you'll see me do this a second time over here because I end up putting some texture paste over here and then notice that there's a huge clump, so I scrape it off, take out that mat finally, and then add another layer of that texture paste. In my mind, you can never have enough texture or layers, and so I grabbed this fabric. Now this fabric was extras from my pocket journaling kit, but it's also the same fabric that comes in the fabric packs, so you could use either one or even use some that you have at home. So anyways, I just used my tiny attacher to hold that together instead of my sewing machine, and now I'm working on gluing this all down. So after placing this cluster down, it still seemed like it was missing something to me. And so I grabbed that verse reference from the flashcard and cut it down just a little bit more. And then I'm actually going to distress the edges and add 2 little eyelets to the outer edges. Now those eyelets are the same bright yellow gold that I'm not crazy about, and so I take out my Foundry Wax again for the 3rd time on this page, and I'm going to cover those eyelets once I put them in with the Foundry Wax and heat set them so they match all the rest of the gold on this page. After gluing that down, this page will be complete. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me over on Instagram at Wonderfully Made Handcrafting. I'll try to link everything I use down below in the description, and I hope you have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.